Hi, UUCP. I'm here with Benjie Messer, and he is our music director. And most of you probably have worked with him, feel like you know him. And I was actually really interested to interview Benjie because I feel like we all work with Benjie or sing with Benjie every Sunday, yet there's a lot of things that I don't know about him after working together at like 6 years or something.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask a few things. And the first thing, Benji plays most instruments. I think many instruments. So I wanted to know what instruments do you play, and what is your like favorite, or the one you think is your like the one that you play the most?
Okay. Thanks, Mary. Yeah. That's a question a lot of people ask me. I started playing euphonium, which is like the little tuba. Uh, and then I picked up trombone in seventh grade or eighth grade. And then I picked up percussion in maybe ninth grade or 10th grade. I was playing. So those are the instruments I studied when I was a kid. Took lessons on. Um, and then along the way, I picked up little bits of piano and guitar, like as needed when I was teaching elementary school for a while in a building where I didn't have my own room and I had to go to different kids' classrooms. So I had to pick up guitar because you can't carry the piano with you to different rooms. Um, and then, and that was the first time I had taught choir too. Um, so I had to learn a little about singing. And then most recently, I've learned a little bass and I've started studying guitar for real just in the last year. Um, and I've done a lot of, I mean, this isn't an instrument, I guess, but I've done a lot of band leading and writing and arranging. And I had a while, there were a few years where I worked digitally full time, like creating background tracks on the computer for people. Um, so, and thought about moving to LA and doing film composing full time. So, like, did a lot of orchestration workshops and just a lot of time studying those programs. So that's kind of like it's not an instrument, but it's a way to interact with music. And
Definitely.
same way, like now, my big instrument, I guess, is the choir. That I like tell them what to do. So
Wow.
yeah.
Well, I was curious how you've learned each of these things, and like, so every time you had to learn a new instrument or a new medium, was it out of necessity, or were you super excited to learn it, or was it you kind of took
Mm.
a um, approach reaching out to other people to get them to teach you, or how do you do it every time you pick up a new one?
um, huh. I mean, school band was like first, and that was just fun, you know. And and I was lucky. My folks got me lessons pretty early on, and I liked them. I liked my teachers. Um, so I would practice because I liked that. Um, and then like there were some camps connected to the school that I went to that ended up I sort of like they taught me enough theory that I could self-teach myself on piano and guitar a bit. Um, and then I mean when I was teaching elementary school, I did these Cota trainings, these summer trainings, and that was definitely by necessity. Like I didn't have any idea what I was doing. I was a terrible teacher. Um, I just had no idea what to do, and I had to find something. And I went to the library, and I found a book on Kodai stuff, and that was my teaching for the first year, and then I learned that they were doing these summer camps, and I went to these camps and learned um, how to teach better. That was really intense. Um, and I think, I mean, the composing thing has always been like a passion thing. Like in college, I wished there were still radio stations with staff arrangers. Like I was playing jazz and I read about all these radio stations in the 30s and 40s that had staff arrangers, like whole teams of folks that just arranged music to be played the next day live on the radio. And I was like, oh, if only that job still existed, that would be my job. Um, and I didn't really know anybody did that. But then so later when I got into the computer digital background track thing and I was reading about film composing, I was like, oh, maybe this is the job. Um, and that was just a lot of fun. Um, and then, yeah, I don't know, a lot by necessity, I think.
Yes. Well, I was thinking, so I know that you're not working for one of those radio stations, but you end up arranging things all the time for all of the different people that that you work with. Like some people are more ear people, some people read more, some people, or you kind of have an idea of what everybody can do or what their like, I guess, strengths are. So you can arrange things for all the
Hmm.
different people.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of the music director job.
Yeah.
I remember talking to Connie Yarmark, who was the music director at UUCP before I showed up. Uh, she sat in on one of my interviews, and one of the questions she asked was like, "What notation program do you use? Would you know how to write out a descant for a violinist to go with the choir if you needed to?" And luckily I knew what she meant, and I had a notation program I used, and yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Well, so before we get to, I'm going to ask you how you ended up at UUCP, but first I want to know about the venues that you played in because I think they're probably pretty cool.
The venues that I've
Yeah,
played
the
in
venues because I know you've done a lot of band stuff. Um,
have have for a while before UUCP. I ran a New Orleans brass band in Phoenix that I booked and led, uh,
mhm.
and we actually specialized in weird, strange venues. Partly because I was just excited about that, and partly because it was that band. Like we didn't need a PA system, and we didn't need a stage, and we didn't necessarily need an audience, because it's just like the New Orleans brass band tradition is like they just go where they want, they rove around. Um, so I would call farms on the phone, I would call schools, I would call churches, I would call like plumbing supply stores, like everywhere, like anything I could think of. Um, I would call and see if they had gigs for us. We played all sorts of gigs. We won a contest that Southwest Airlines sponsored, to play on an airplane.
Wow.
I think it was intended for singer-songwriters who would stand up and play guitar, but it was just a popularity contest and we won. So we got to take all our instruments on the airplane and stand up and play. And we had my girlfriend at the time sang through the public address microphone on the plane. It was super fun.
Wow. So what were people's reactions to it?
They enjoyed it a lot, I think, most people. I mean, there were some people who were like put in their headphones and turned them up, but most people really enjoyed it. Um, yeah,
That
and
wins the award.
it was pretty amazing. I also, I called Grand Canyon University to see if they wanted us to play at a time when their music program had disappeared. Like they'd gone into so much financial trouble that it had gone under, and all their music teachers had been fired. and they at this point they've built it back up. They have this whole program and all these professors there, and they said, well, we don't need musicians except at our basketball games. We have basketball games, and we don't have a band because we don't have a music program. Would your band play our basketball games? And we ended up booking like 30 basketball games, and then I ended up teaching their basketball band the next year of students. It was like the very beginning of their music program. Um, yeah, I've done all sorts of really weird gigs.
Wow. Do you have
Really weird.
any other cool ones that you want to share?
Um, the one of the things running a New Orleans style brass band was that we realized that Phoenix didn't have a Mardi Gras tradition, and we started a festival downtown that involved a parade, and that ran for a few years. The Downtown Phoenix Mardi Gras Parade and Festival, um, and we were responsible for that,
Uh-huh.
and that was really fun. We booked a bunch of other bands and coordinated. I put out a call for all the parade folks and talked to all the stilt walkers and clowns and roller derby girls and folks marching with their pit bulls and whoever else. It was a really fun. That was a great gig. I was very proud of that.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's since disappeared. We stopped doing it, and the other folks we were co-sponsoring it with stopped doing it. But
Yes, I'm sure it's a lot to like a huge amount of work to put it together and to keep it going.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, so how did you end up then at UUCP after going from the airplane to marching the streets to you?
Right. Yeah. Oh, I didn't mention as an instrument that I learned that I play sousaphone and did that with the brass band, and that was a necessity thing
Oh.
where I had been playing trombone with a brass band, and I could tell that the tuba players were getting more work, and so I bought myself a cheap tuba, and yeah, and ended up being a good investment. Um,
Wow. Yeah,
yeah,
that's interesting. A
yeah,
sousaphone. I don't even know much about a sousaphone.
yeah. It, it's a it's a marching tuba.
Okay, very
Uh,
large instrument.
yeah, but sorry, what was your question?
So I'm just wondering how you ended up at
How I
UUCP.
end up at
What
UCP.
led you?
Right. So I had been underemployed for about a year. Um, like the background track job at the digital production studio had I forget what had happened. It was some kind of a financial. I think it was the 2008 financial crash. And we'd just been getting less and less work. I had been 40 hours a week there for years, and I was down to 10 or 15. Um, and I had been teaching electronic music at some local colleges, but they had started going under too. Like Collins College failed, just closed, and Phoenix College started not having enough enrollment for classes. So like I'd get 3 classes, but only one of them would get enough students to actually go. Um, and they have a great electronic program. I really recommend them highly. But it just wasn't enough work, and I was losing money every month. And the band never paid well enough. Um, and I did gig, a Latin gig, playing trombone with Tito Puente's son, Tito Puente Jr., at a casino. And a bunch of the guys in the band were making their living playing at churches, like at charismatic Christian megachurch kind of situations, bands that were big enough to have horn players, um, and making hundreds of dollars a week and doing great. And and I thought, oh, that's cool. Maybe I have Sundays free. Maybe I should get a church gig. So I posted on Facebook, hey, I'm free on Sundays. Anybody have a church gig? And my friend Jennifer Moninger, who used to attend UUCP now and then and still got the newsletter, forwarded me the newsletter and said, hey, they're looking for a music director. And I thought, well, there's probably not much chance I'll get that. That's like a really high level position, and they probably want someone with choir directing background. Um, but I'll apply. And then maybe 4 months after I applied, I got a call that they were considering my resume. And then we set up a few interviews that lasted another few months, and then they ended up hiring me.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Wow. And so what's the best thing about working at UUCP and working with this group of musicians?
Mm, it's a great community to be part of. Um, People love to be there. I mean, it's not like like teaching school where some people love to be there, but a lot of people are forced to be there, right? Um, and it doesn't have quite the sort of intensity and perfectionism of teaching at colleges, um, where there's a lot of judging yourself, and there's a lot of like, you just have to do the music that your professors want you to do, regardless of what you really want to do. Um, so UCP is like a place where there are just a lot of musicians hanging out, and they get to do the music they want in the ways that they want. And all I do is kind of help make that happen. Um, and so it's like, that's a beautiful thing. Um, yeah, I love it. And um, and there's a lot of variety, you know? I mean, compared to a job where you just do one thing. Like a lot of musicians specialize and just do one thing, right? They just play this instrument, or they just tour with this band and play these songs night after night after night. Um, and I've considered going into those things, and I love having so much variety. That's part of why I thought about doing film music, is that you get hired to do different kinds of films, and you get to write different kinds of music with each job. And UCP is a lot like that. I get to help out the a cappella group, and then I get to help out the choir, and then I get to help out some rock and roll musicians and whatever.
It's
Yeah,
actually probably kind of similar in some ways because you're like creating a move for every Sunday,
yeah,
and it's kind of a different scene every week
hmm,
or a different theme. So
yeah. Yeah, it's a great job. I've recommended it to many musicians that I know.
good. Well, that means a lot when you start recommending it to your friends.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I guess it takes us to my final question is about the current situation. Everything is extremely different, and
Yeah.
what do you think we can do to keep connected musically, and how is it for you right now?
Yeah. I've actually let's see what I wrote to answer this question.
That's a
I've
good
actually
question.
been really lucky during the pandemic, um, to have, I mean, a lot of, without being able to be in person together. A lot of musicians are connecting by posting audio or video of what they're doing. And I've been really lucky to have some tech background so that I can help folks at UUCP, particularly like, hey, I want to record, myself singing with piano. And I've had enough background, it hasn't taken me forever to figure out how to put those videos together. Um, and and the film background helped with that too. That I did this UU General Assembly earlier in the year and got to think a lot about, like, what does it mean to do music online, um, and through video and through sharing recordings, essentially, instead of getting to be with people live. And it's been fun. And there are some ways that I think people who don't have that tech background can have the same thing. It just takes initiative to reach out to people. That's the biggest thing. Like I was amazed when I did General Assembly and I realized like, oh, anybody can be in this choir, right? Like they don't have to take a plane. They don't have to be in the same place. They don't have to know me. Like I can call a celebrity and they're at home, right? They're at home, social distancing, waiting for someone to call them to make music, you know? Um, and I did, and I got these amazing soloists to sing on one of the choir tracks, who's world famous, who was just, she was like, yeah, I'd love to. And it was a really sweet thing. And I think, I have a guitar teacher now online, and we do lessons like this over Zoom. And he has so much free time. He was so glad to get the call to teach me. Um, and I think it's just like there's just a lot of taking initiative in a different way, that we're so used to just kind of running into people. And now that we're not running into people, we just need to take a lot of initiative. But I think people are just waiting to hear from you, waiting to like get to teach you music or play music back and forth, or there are all kinds of weird people figuring out how to share music. Um, yeah.
Cool.
Or watch. I've talked to folks at the congregation who like watch concerts together that are on TV and then talk on the phone about it, or who are like playing piano with their granddaughter over the phone, or like just amazing stuff. Um, so yeah, it's and honestly, I'm doing great. I'm making lots of music, both at the congregation and I've gotten a bunch of calls I haven't had time to take, but from folks who want virtual choir stuff for different online events and want me to help put it together. So,
Wow. Well,
if
that's
I
really
ever,
good to hear. It sounds
yeah, if I ever have time, I'll have more musical work to do for sure.
wow. It sounds actually very, very, very positive. Um,
Yeah.
and like you've taken a situation and made it positive.
Hmm.
So that's that's great. That's I think something that we can all all learn from musicians. No, it's very specifically so, but I think everybody can take a leaf out of your book in
Thanks, Mary.
that way. So that takes
Thanks.
us to the end of our interview. Um,
Okay.
but thank you, Benji, and
Of course.
thank you so much, UUCP, for listening. Hope you learned a little bit more just now. Thanks.